All right, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully this is working. Hopefully I can see my friend and myself at the same time on the live feed. If not, it might just be me speaking to myself, and I won't know until I actually see a live feedback that shows this exact time. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kinetic Expressions Movie News. I'm Artie, and hopefully this is...
I'm Andy.
and today we're going to be reviewing a movie that was released earlier this month by the title of In the Heights. Brief synopsis of In the Heights, a film version of a Broadway musical in which Usvani, a sympathetic New York New York owner of a, what do they call them? Bodega, saves every penny every day as he imagines and sings for a better life. This was a musical that was created and written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. This movie version is created and was actually directed by Jon M Chu of Step Up fame and more recently Crazy Rich Asians as well. Drew, what are your initial thoughts about In the Heights?
I don't necessarily care for. I think, I've said it before. I don't necessarily care for musical adaptation movies. Some are, but they've really split the line. I just I proved myself wrong by kind of looking into it. They're 50-50. Some help the energy of the show. Some just kind of drag the show a little too long. And so that's what I didn't necessarily like this. This is a high energy show. This is a lot of exciting characters getting together. There's the street block. You can almost smell New York just watching it. It's great. But there were some parts that I felt like it slowed the whole thing down a little bit. Wish it was a little bit more. I don't know. The movie aspects of this, I really liked. I could do without the synchronized swimming and everybody dancing like it's, like a surprise video thing. I could do with all that, without all the big musical number stuff. But some of these scenes as a movie, it was really good. There were some emotional scenes in there. There were some heartfelt moments. I have some lines that I'll tell you that are my favorite later on. I mean, there were some good things to take away from this, I think. What about you, man?
So it sounds like you hated every aspect of this movie that was a musical, which, kind of goes completely against what this movie's all about. But I understand what you're saying. Personally, I'm going to say that I really enjoyed myself. I think this was a really fun movie. I think the actors really brought a lot of interesting characterizations and portrayals in here. I thought that the production design, the sound design, and I even thought that the directing, Jon M Chu did a really good job of incorporating music and cinema and really combining the two and not making this a movie simply about, oh, let's just put the camera on all these people dancing. No, Jon M Chu decided to say, oh, let's put the camera on the people dancing, but then also let's move through the scene with the characters, and then let's change the scenery as the songs are changing, and really bring in some cinematic prowess to a really well done musical. Right? So to me, fun, really well done. I understand what you mean. This isn't the best musical, right? It won a bunch of Tonys when it came out. But I think the worst parts of this film overall are when the music is kind of just happening just for music's sake, which I kind of think harkens to what you're talking about, right?
I'm talking about little things like the one where Dr. Dre. I always think of him as Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre, yeah.
From Compton, from the movie.
Talk about Corey Hawkins.
Hawkins. Yeah, thank you. The scene with Corey Hawkins and they walk on the side of the building and it's a big song number and I'm like, I get it. We've all got that, they're in love with each other and all this stuff throughout the whole movie. And then it just goes into song and it goes into this unrealistic moment. And they've already actually had a song earlier in the number, which I thought was actually really good. earlier in the piece. I keep saying earlier in the piece, but it's earlier in the movie. And like I thought it was actually done really well. The first song that they have together, and then they have another song together, and I just think it like gets you out of the movie that's happening, and I don't know. That's my complaint. Maybe I just don't like musicals. Whatever. I just don't like musicals. This is a good musical. I think it does well on the stage. I'm sorry. I don't like musicals in the movie form. I just don't like them. I thought this did well on stage. 13 nominees for Tonys. It had 4 wins on it. This is Lin-Manuel Miranda's baby. He's been working on this since he was a sophomore in college. And it's like his inception, right? He's been working on this for tens and tens of years. And so he's seen the fruition of all of the Broadway play, of, like he's adapted. I think it was like a play, and he added more salsa numbers when he was like in college and stuff like that. And then he finally got it into a musical, and then now he gets to see the whole thing as a movie. And I don't know, man. He grew up. I looked it up. He grew up in Inwood, Manhattan, which is about 5 blocks up above Washington Heights. So this is where he grew up. Essentially, he is of Puerto Rican descent. His name, Lin-Manuel, comes from a poem written by a Puerto Rican poet. There's all these connections. You know what I'm saying? Like he is one of us, Arnie.
Yes, he is one of us. One of us. You mean of the brown persuasion, Latin American, parents that did not come here, but from countries that were invaded by Spain a long time ago and had to speak Spanish. Yeah. Yes, and I think that's important to state about this movie as well. As you and I are both of the brown persuasion. My mother's from El Salvador, father's from Mexico. I believe you're all Mexican. And like on that level, I really do connect with the story and things like that. I feel that. I feel the culture really does connect and harken back to the culture of our family as well, because it is all kind of in the same family, right? This neighborhood encompasses all kinds of nationalities. You've got Dominican, you've got Cuban, you've got Puerto Rican, you have Mexican in there as well. There's even a dance number that literally shows off every single one of those flags, right? So on that level, I really enjoyed it, and I think those kind of stories need to be told, and I'm really glad that story is being told first on Broadway, but now it's on a big motion picture that you can go and watch in the movies, and it's on HBO Max as well. I really think that those stories need to be told because it is about America. It is American life. I was watching a review for this movie from someone else. I forget. I don't think it was Dan Merle. It was another. Oh, you know what? It was Double Toasted. I love those guys. Double Toasted. They mentioned this. This movie is so anti-Friends that because Friends set in New York, in Manhattan, they were like, Washington Heights is on the island of Manhattan. and that TV show was so white, just the complete absence of color, just one random fling with a black girl Ross had. That's literally the amount of color that was in that, and this is very much not that. This brings to the forefront the diversity, the real diversity that is in New York City, right? And that is just something that doesn't happen much. I'm glad it's happening now. With that said, there was a lot of lines that took me out of this movie that were specifically about the Spanish. Now, maybe it's because this is a different kind of Spanish. It's not Mexican Spanish that I'm used to. But there were just some lines that were delivered by these actors who, I know some of the actors do speak Spanish, but most of these actors have English as a first language, so maybe that's where like the disconnect come from. Like there was a couple lines where like this just sounds like a white dude writing Spanish for a musical that's supposed to be about people who halfway speak Spanish. You know what I mean? Just like little things like that took me out. And I kind of harken back to what you were talking about the musical numbers, just like not really encompassing the plot and moving the plot forward. There's definitely moments of that for sure. But I think all of that is honestly underscored by the fantastic performances that were in this. Anthony Ramos as Uzvani did a wonderful job of emoting and kind of making everything fit. He was the narrator. He's the main character. He's one of the main characters of the many love stories in this film as well. I think it was good. I really want to highlight Olga. I don't know how to say her last name. Mirandis. She plays Abuela Claudia. Her musical number was incredible. And I think that musical number in and of itself encompasses the best parts of this movie and what this movie does really well, especially from a directing standpoint, a production design standpoint, and bringing in the music and cinematic prowess of Jon M Chu to really move the story forward in a really artful and beautiful way. It was really, really well done, and I think that's kind of what this movie was. In the Heights was really trying to get in the Heights too, right? But yeah, I do agree. There's definitely like it's dance numbers for dance numbers, and don't get me wrong. There is some beautiful Latin people having a good time in this movie, and it is a good time to watch some hot Latin people having a good time, for sure. I think on that level it delivers, and it definitely it fires on all cylinders. But yeah, like some of the dance numbers are just kind of like just for dance numbers' sake, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying with the Spanish, but like I think some of that is the movie. A portion of the movie needs to be gentrified in a certain way so that it can play to a larger audience.
Yeah, 100%.
But I also think that's less that, like a lot of people would say that, I think, but I think it's less that and it's more actually Lin-Manuel's rhyming scheme and him trying to fit the Spanish words and raps into the rhyming of the songs. And I think with the words that you're saying, having that like like the certain like inflection of the way they're saying it, that helps it in that rhyming scheme. I mean, all Spanishes are different. The Puerto Rican Dominican Spanish is completely different to like the Spanish that I think I learned within my family in a predominantly Mexican family, and it's very different from the Spaniards like Spanish from Spain that I learned in high school. And I'd get in arguments. I actually got into a fight with my Spanish teacher because we argued a lot about some of the things that we were taught, and the words are completely different. And that like we're in Texas where people are predominantly Mexican, not Spaniard, like Spaniard from Spain. And so so like I get that, like my Spanish is always going to be a strong one that I have to get over as well. But I think New York's, like people speaking Spanish in New York was very different for me. Like I couldn't understand them half the time. I didn't even know they were speaking Spanish. I thought they were like speaking Portuguese or something. So
it's a very different.
Could be that. Yeah, it could be that. I think you really did. I mean, like I really felt like I was in New York. I mean, it was shot in New York, so like I love the New York vibe that we got in the movie, and there is a sense of like when you leave like the lower streets, so like the people that live within the park of New York, within the Central Park, the 80s, like it's like it starts like somewhere in the. It starts like on 90th Street and it goes all the way down to the 40s. And if anywhere in between the park is a very expensive place to live in Manhattan. As soon as you get above it, that's where people can start to afford to actually live there. And so that has always been, the more north you go of the park, that's always historically been the cheaper area, and like the area, I would say the more cultural area as you go up. There's a line in the movie where like before it was the Mexicans, it was the Irish, like in that part of Washington Heights. And I thought that was like, that just says what like New York has transformed over the years. And obviously the right above is the after the 90s, in the 90s into the hundreds, that's Harlem. And we all know about Harlem. You know what I mean? Like we see Harlem all over. We know that the Apollo Theater is in Harlem. That is a very gender specific. And then right above that, a gender? Wow. The fuck did I just say? Sorry. we know that that is like culturally specific. And um and then above that we go to Washington Heights, and Washington Heights is predominantly Hispanic. And I thought it, that's super accurate. Where like, if I wanted to go get some good food, I would go to Washington Heights. I would go to Spanish Harlem, because like those were the places where I felt most at home as a Texan, even.
Yeah.
And like, I love that aspect of it. I really do. It made me miss New York and miss some things in New York. I don't miss the heat and the blackouts, which is which is most of this movie. But like, it really does, like, it like makes you think that like there are like, it makes you kind of happy that there are more cultural diverse places, like, even if it's in a movie, but like Washington Heights.
100%. And I think that's kind of the purpose of the movie, or the story, the musical. It's about presenting to an audience the sheer diversity that is within the city of New York.
Yeah.
And I think this movie definitely delivers that in droves. I've never been to New York, but I feel it. It's sprinkled all across this, and it makes sense that this kind of thing is Lin-Manuel Miranda's baby. Like, it's the thing that he wanted to write. He's written it since he was in college, and now he's making a boatload of money on it. Good, good for Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think it's appropriate for us to start to go into spoilers just straight out.
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm just going to bring up the spoiler warning up now. Beautiful. Do you have anything to add, sir?
I did want to talk about, just really quick, I just wanted to, because you kind of mentioned some characters. I really did think there was some knockout performances from people that I really wanted to quickly mention. I love that you said that Olga Merediz, whatever her name is.
Yes.
And like, I saw a couple people from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I love. I really like that. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so I was happy that you saw some people from there. We obviously saw Corey Hawkins. I thought he did a great performance. I thought like Mark Anthony was surprisingly good in his one scene. I was like, I love seeing Mark Anthony. I love seeing Jimmy Smits. Jimmy Smits will always be one of my all-time favorite Hispanic actors, because he has had so many diverse roles and he kills it. And he's obviously a stage guy. He loves the theater, and he has transitioned flawlessly into film. And he's done very dramatic works of art for like Sons of Anarchy. He was a whole season of a bad guy in Dexter. That's just to name a few. He's obviously had like his Law and Order days and stuff like that. Like, this guy's well-rounded. He's been in the game for years, and I don't think he skips a beat in this movie. He actually is some of the heart of this movie. And I do, because you now put on that spoilers, he has one of my favorite lines in this movie. And like, I hope it doesn't go missed, because this line that he gives, it's almost like when his daughter comes in and she finally realizes that she wants to go back to school, and he says, "You have now officially become better than me." And it's it's kind of like, what he's always wanted, but like, you've officially got better than me. And it's not because of that piece of crap, it's not because of that degree that you're going to go get, but it's that you see a future that I can't.
Right.
And I thought that was the most beautiful lines. That probably was just written as not as great as the way he delivered it, but man, like, I'm saying, like, I it could have been a throwaway line, but he did not make it a throwaway line. He made that a line that I felt in that movie, and I loved it. And like, I almost wanted to write it down, because I thought it was so good.
It's so true, though. It harkens to everything about this picture. Because you and I, as children of immigrants, I get that. Like, I understand that there are aspects of American life that I can comprehend that my family can't.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. Like, I understand it. I understand the small idiosyncrasies of our society. I understand pathways through our society. I understand the ladders of our society better than my family does. And I know how to move through those things in ways that I know they could never think of. And that you're so right. That line really, really harkens back to all that. Such a great line. Yes, Jimmy Smits does an incredible performance. I do want to say this about the plot. If ever, if ever a woman as gorgeous as Lena ever wants to be with me and I decide to move, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sorry, bro. What? You're gonna leave everything for that? This love story. It's just a weird motivation. He like wants to leave. He wants to leave to go back to Dominican Republic because it's the land where he remembers his best dreams, his best world, right?
Oh,
But then
you mean Vanessa? You mean Vanessa and Uznavi, right? I think it's Vanessa and Uznavi and
yes, you're right, Vanessa. You're right. Yeah, it's Vanessa. I was thinking about the other love interest in the movie.
Yeah, Benny and Nina. Benny and Nina.
That was Nina. Yeah. I'm talking about Vanessa. Yes.
Even Abuela, man. Did you see that meat that she had in that pot stewing?
No, dude, what?
With those tamales, pasteles. I'm sorry, I call them tamales. Puerto Ricans call them pasteles. Man, they look good, man. I'd marry Abuela. Like, no wonder who wanted to take her with them.
I want to say something about Abuela too. So Olga, I think Miranda is her name. She actually was the original actress that performed Abuela Claudia in the Heights on Broadway. And apparently she's never done a movie. Like, she hasn't really done many movies before. She's done a lot of TV shows, a lot of TV, but she just knocked it out of the park. It was like really the heart and soul of the movie. It was really, really nice. Her performance was just incredible.
And I think she's actually Cuban. So like she is of like, I think it's kind of culturally accurate. Like I like that they got somebody. What did you think? And I don't know why I didn't look into this, but like, what did you think? I'm gonna roll my eyes as I say this. What did you think of the diversity of this show?
I mean, it was. I don't know the actual diversity of all these people. I do like. There is controversy. I don't know if you want to talk about. There's some controversy that this movie is going through because there is a very much a lack of Afro-Latin representation throughout the entire thing. And I'll say this: there's not a lot of dark-skinned Hispanics here, and as a very dark-skinned Hispanic myself, I could kind of feel the absence of that, except for Jimmy Smits, which the only reason he got a role here is because he's Jimmy Smits. You know, I felt that for sure. Because look, Latin communities are dark, and they're a little darker than this, than it was on screen. So like, I have to say, yeah.
100%. I had a friend who lived. He lived very near. He lived in Washington Heights, but a very southern part of Washington Heights. I'd go visit him. He's a little bit more light skinned than he was. I'm sorry. He's a little bit darker than me, but he's still light skinned as a Hispanic. And we would walk around, and we knew we looked like white people, but the amount of Afro Latino community in those areas is pretty significant. And I would say that like, even Nina is closer resemblance to that, but she's still a light skinned. She's still a light skinned version of that.
Yes.
And I even told a good friend of mine who is half African American and half white that like legitimately, if you went to Washington Heights, they would think you could probably pass for Hispanic because she gets confused as everything else, here. But like, she legitimately would get confused for Hispanic because she has the curly hair, she has that very caramel dark skin, and like it's like it's just the way people look up there, and it was lacking. Now that you even mentioned it, I didn't even think about that. I did think that for what Hollywood does to casts, this was a very diverse cast.
100%.
For how white Hollywood is. I mean, like, I'm not saying like, this, if this got to an Oscar, which it certainly can, with some of the music in it. Um, with how well the music is written is what I'm trying to say. I think this would be probably the most diverse that the Academy's ever seen of a cast. So like, but yeah, it is lacking in the sense that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sense of realism that is a little out there, right? Because it's just it could be a little bit more colorful for sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, and we could definitely dive in on like how much more diverse Latin communities are for sure. But yeah, I did feel a little bit of there lacking of it, but I guess it makes sense. It's a big budget movie coming from a big budget studio, and like I don't know what year this what really like was filmed or anything. I'm pretty sure this was all filmed before the social unrest that happened earlier last year. Because now it's now we're kind of I don't know what pictures look like after that, but I'd imagine that things are going to be shifting more in that respect, right? But yeah, it is just very very diverse. Like
And I get that. Like, I guess I think he wanted to do something for the Hispanic community in general, and so like I'm really glad that he did this. I feel like Hamilton in its own right is something beautiful for all minority groups, and I
yeah,
think if you haven't gone to see Hamilton, like everybody should watch it. But like that, you can tell that's what he has in his head, and these themes are reoccurring in anything he writes. That's why I'm kind of excited for what he writes next. Whatever it is. Obviously, uh, we're not going to see any of those themes in Bring It On, but uh,
yeah, for
but
sure. Actually,
go ahead.
I was gonna say his next project is a movie. It is a movie musical, 100% movie musical.
Right.
That is starring um, Andrew Garfield, uh, entitled "Tick Tick Boom." The trailer is out now. You can watch it.
Nice.
Directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, an actual movie musical called "Tick Tick Boom." I'm interested to see what that is. I mean, this man, he's like he's like the musical version of Stephen King. He can just pump him out. He just has that prowess, and stuff
So,
like that. So
side note: I mean, I don't know how much you like Lin Manuel, but there's a show, a very famous show called House. I don't know if you ever watched it. It's like
yeah, I've heard of it.
some
Yes.
medical Sherlock Holmes. Lin Manuel Miranda plays a great character in that, where he just gets to freestyle and do his little hip hop rants and be Lin Manuel Miranda. And I think it's so funny because it happens early on in his career, because it was mid 2000s. It's like after he graduated college, so he got this pretty good role in House. And so, like, if anybody never knew that, they should go watch it, because I always love watching the episodes with him in it.
Right on. Right on. All right, man. I think we did it.
Yeah,
I think all things considered, it is a fun movie that definitely deserves a watch. It's got some fantastic like basic story. It's these are not big outlandish. It's not an epic. It's very simple ensemble piece that is about love. It's about saving community, and it's about diversity. And like all those things put together, you're not gonna go wrong for sure.
yeah, for
100%.
sure.
Any last thoughts, my man, before we close it
No,
out?
man. No, I think we nailed it. Like, I liked it. I thought it was worth the watch. I don't know if I'd watch it again, but like, it was a good thing to sit through. I like it.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Very much appreciated. We are Kinetic Impressions. We are available on all platforms known to humanity as Kinetic Impressions. Have a wonderful day. And Drew, I believe we always tell the human beings of the internet to do what?
Go watch a fucking movie.
Watch a fucking movie. Bye, guys.